Greetings, I'm Austin Hill, Board Chair of Historic Savannah Foundation, and it is with utmost delight that I welcome you to Historic Savannah Foundation's 2025 Preservation Awards. Every May, in honor of Preservation Month, HSF celebrates the projects and people that represent the best in preservation in Savannah and Chatham County. This year is particularly special as Historic Savannah Foundation marks its 70th anniversary. Since the organization's founding in 1955, we have committed to preserving the buildings, places, and stories that define our city's past, present, and future. Today we continue that legacy, and now I'll turn it over to Sue Adler, HSF's President and CEO, to begin our program.
Thank you, Austin. As we begin this year's ceremony, I would like to thank everyone who submitted a nomination. This year was especially competitive, with several wonderful contenders. Ultimately, a juried recognition of preservation efforts determined our winners using the following criteria: quality and degree of difficulty of the nominee's project or effort, degree to which the nominee's project or effort is unusual or pioneering or serves as an example that influences good preservation practices, demonstrable or measurable impact of the nominee's project on the community. Thank you to our judges, Jessica Baldwin, Eli Laurie, and Scott Kreutzer, for lending their expertise and discernment to determine our winners. We would also like to take a moment to thank our generous Preservation Month sponsors. Joining me to announce our award winners are Ellie Isaacs, HSF's Director of Preservation and Historic Properties, and Kendall Graham, HSF's Education and Research Associate. It is now our pleasure to introduce the winners of the 2025 Preservation Awards.
Our first award-winning project focused on the rehabilitation of two historic buildings on West 38th Street within the Cuyler-Brownville National Register Historic District. 505 and 507, a one-story double cottage, and 509 West 38th Street, a two-story Queen Anne-style duplex, had fallen victim to vacancy, blight, and crime for several years. These two buildings comprised half of the block on West 38th Street between MLK Jr. Boulevard and Burrough Street. The entire block has suffered, with many existing but derelict historic buildings sadly lost to demolition. This rehabilitation serves as a catalyst, taking two long vacant buildings within a block and creating 5 residential units, enhancing the appearance of the entire street and quality of life for neighbors while serving as a model for a preservation-minded approach to address blight. This project is unique in that it took on 2 separate historic buildings. The double cottage at 505 to 507 West 38th Street was constructed in 1901 by Rebecca and Stephen Eady, a mother and son, as an income-producing property while they resided next door. The American Foursquare double cottage was a popular vernacular house form and can be seen throughout the neighborhood. It was occupied both by tenants and owners, families, and individuals throughout the years, undergoing changes and alterations to the front porch, interior spaces, and the rear of the building. Although repairs were made in 2001 and all windows were replaced, it fell into foreclosure shortly after and remained vacant. The Queen Anne-style residence at 509 West 38th Street was constructed the following year, in 1902, by Mary Butler, and is a good example of the type of housing being constructed as Savannah continued to expand south and west in the early 20th century. Originally as a single-family house, it was divided into a duplex in circa 1930. Longtime owners Harriet and Eugene Jackson lived in the home while renting out the upper floor from 1948 to 2015. During this period, many alterations and additions were constructed to accommodate the ever-changing tenants. In 2022, Brett Watts and partners Patrick Johnston and Bo Hinton of Cabretta Capital purchased both properties with the plan to sensitively rehabilitate them to create rental housing using best preservation practices and preservation tax incentives. The team committed to removing non-historic elements that obscured and altered significant features, and to replace missing historic character-defining details. Architectural plans were prepared by Josh Ward with Ward Architecture and Preservation, and the Basin Company served as general contractors. Patrick Johnston with Chatham Developers served as the project manager. Sarah Ward, also with Ward Architecture and Preservation, prepared the tax credit incentive applications and ensured that construction met the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. The biggest obstacle that the team faced was the building's lack of maintenance that resulted in significant disrepair and rot. Parts of the building open to the environment allowed water intrusion to damage interior features, walls, and floors. The Queen Anne-style residence at 509 West 38th Street had suffered fire damage and the rear walls were completely missing. The interior was subdivided and a series of additions had been constructed on the rear. The front entry porch was replaced with a brick addition, obscuring the entrance and removing significant features. The front porches were replaced at 505 to 507 West 38th Street as well, along with the removal of original windows, fireplace mantles, and plaster walls. Thankfully, the double cottage's original floor plan was intact, along with tongue and groove wainscoting on historic walls. The team proceeded with the removal of non-historic additions, walls, and infill in order to ascertain original designs and replace missing features. This was most evident on the front porches of both structures. Designs were based on historic documentation and used the existing foundations to present a sensitive and compatible replacement while reusing as much original material as possible. The rear additions were kept to accommodate new bathrooms and kitchens, and rear entries that had been enclosed were reestablished. The successful rehabilitation of these buildings resulted in 5 new residential apartments. More residents on the block have improved the streetscape and encouraged less crime while sparking investment into neighboring buildings. The project was completed at the end of 2023 and impressively attained over $506,000 in federal and state preservation tax incentives, along with a 10-year property tax freeze for each building. The rehabilitation of these buildings in historic Cuyler-Brownville illustrates how preservation can revitalize not only a single building, but an entire block.
The Paulson Harrison Omler House, located within the Thomas Square Streetcar National Register Historic District at 111 East 36th Street, is our next Preservation Award recipient. This project focused on a mixed-use rehabilitation of a classic Georgian Revival-style home designed by Hyman Wickover, one of Savannah's most revered architects during the early 20th century. Wickover designed several Savannah landmarks, including the Scottish Rite Temple, Chatham Armory, Bull Street Library, and Savannah City Hall. In addition to these iconic structures, Wickover designed several residential homes, many of which were in the Georgian Revival style, which was one of the most popular in the United States during this time. The architect designed this house for Mrs. Maria A. Paulson in 1903, finishing it in 1904. Unfortunately, Mrs. Paulson passed away suddenly shortly after the home's completion. William G. Harrison, an insurance agent, bought the house for his family, and they resided here until 1919. The next owner, Frida Rauer Omler, purchased the home that year, and it remained in her family until 1962. While most Georgian revivals emphasize symmetry, this is a slightly asymmetrical and rare example, accounting for just 10% of homes in this style. The Paulson Harrison Omler House survives as an extremely intact resource, retaining its original design, materials, floor plan, plaster walls, wood panel doors, hardware, fixtures, trim, tile, and floors. While technically this project was a rehabilitation to accommodate a mix of uses, including offices, artist studios, and residences, its architectural significance required retention of all historic features, spaces, and materials without adding new elements or interventions, resulting in a restoration of the home to its near original appearance. Anthony Consul and contractors J.A.K. Homes, architect Josh Ward, and preservation consultants Sarah Ward and Susie Bull, all of Ward Architecture and Preservation, embarked on this rehabilitation, taking great care to honor the home's high degree of historic integrity. The largest challenges faced were the sheer size of the property, its unique architectural character, and overall maintenance and expense required to preserve these historic elements. The building features a full-width, one-story porch and 6 wooden ionic columns, 2 engaged pilasters, turned wood railings, and concrete deck. The porch roof is surrounded by a turned wood and an imposing central broken pediment. A large gabled pediment with returns and brackets dominates the steep front gable. These features were intact, but water intrusion had caused many wooden details to rot over time. In some cases, consolidant was used to make repairs, and in others, more extensive work was needed to accurately reproduce rotted elements that exactly matched originals, including the large ionic capitals, delicate porch roof balusters, and specialty siding. The interior is typical of a formal style with connected rooms surrounding a grand foyer lined with wooden panels. Stained wooden pocket doors with original brass hardware separate rooms, which feature grand fireplaces and an original elevator within the elongated central dining room on the first floor and cedar room above. These elements were repaired and restored back to working order. Original bathroom fixtures, including porcelain basins on metal stands, light fixtures, cabinets, and freestanding bathtubs, were retained and restored. The completed project resulted in a mix of uses, creating a vibrant property within the historic Thomas Square neighborhood. It attained over $190,000 in federal and state tax incentives, along with a 10-year property tax freeze due to its income-producing use, which helped to offset the expenses required to properly restore a building of this merit. The rehabilitation of the Paulson Harrison Almler House restored one of Savannah's most intact Hyman Wickover-designed Georgian Revival-style homes, giving it new life as a mixed-use building and exhibiting excellent stewardship of this architecturally significant jewel.
Our next winning project is the Shelby Myrick House, located at 2807 Abercorn Street, within the Ardsley Park Chatham Crescent National Register Historic District. This elegant home, constructed by famed architect Olaf Otto, underwent an extensive restoration and is a leading example of early neoclassical revival-style architecture in Savannah. Completed in 1914 for Savannah attorney Shelby Myrick, the home remained in the same family for over a century. Olaf Otto was trained as an engineer and contractor and is credited as one of the leading architects in Savannah, designing notable local landmarks including the Armstrong Mansion and St. Paul's Lutheran Church. This brick building is one of the best examples of the neoclassical revival style in the city, evident in the full-height gabled portico entrances present on all three of the street-facing facades. 3 generations of the Myrick family lived in the house until the early 1980s, with the building having been modified, updated, and subdivided over the years. Following the home's recent sale in 2020, new owners Heather Bites and Sarah Castle prepared for the restoration with the aim to remove non-historic modifications, walls, and ceilings, which obscured historic spaces and features. The project team included Nathan Snyder with Proper Construction and design and preservation consultant Sarah Ward with Ward Architecture and Preservation. The home's interior had been significantly altered and deferred maintenance had set in. The large size of the property overall required restoration work necessary to preserve such architecturally significant characteristics, and the replication of such missing features were all major concerns. The family provided archival documentation, which helped to determine which spaces were original, when features were removed or added, and if those alterations had since gained historical significance. Exploratory demolition of non-historic walls revealed elements that had been hidden and were important for the reproduction of missing features. The home's exterior was largely intact but needed maintenance. The team recognized restoration opportunities for a few key exterior architectural features. Several door and window openings were reduced in size or covered over, with outlines of the original openings still in place. These elements were restored to their historic configuration, using custom doors and transoms and full-height windows to match the existing frames. Original pilasters and Corinthian capitals were also restored on the exterior. The interior had been modified to a much greater degree. A cross-shaped center hall plan provided exterior access from all sides of the building. Ceilings had been dropped in the mid-20th century, obscuring original interior features. Historic photos revealed a coffered ceiling in the formal dining room, and this feature was found fully intact once the false ceiling was removed. A large mid-20th century bookshelf that had been installed in the southern hallway and covered an original wide-cased opening was removed and the opening reestablished. The room's original wood French doors were found in the attic and returned to their location. The kitchen and secondary spaces were reconfigured in order to utilize and reestablish original door and window openings that had been covered up and reduced in height. Bedrooms and hallways on the second floor had been subdivided for additional bathrooms and sitting rooms. The stair landing balustrade was recreated using the existing railing design as a model, and the shadow line of the original newel post was buried within the non-historic bathroom wall. Original fireplaces, wood panel doors, plaster walls, and narrow tongue-and-groove oak floors were restored in all rooms. This project was completed in 2022 and allows for the home to once again be used as a single-family residence. The building's high level of architectural integrity required a significant amount of effort and expense. As there are no design standards for rehabilitation in this neighborhood, the owner's commitment to using best practices serves as a good example for neighbors. The restoration of the Shelby Myrick House stands out for its impressive stewardship of one of Savannah's most architecturally significant homes in the historic Ardsley Park neighborhood.
The next preservation award goes to a unique adaptive reuse project that transformed a historic church into a single-family residence. St. Luke's Lutheran Church, located on Mechanics Avenue in the historic fishing hamlet of Thunderbolt, has stood as an architectural landmark in the community for over a century. Built in 1902, it was originally dedicated as the Union Church of Thunderbolt, but interestingly served various denominations on different days of the week until 1925. In 1930, it was purchased by St. Luke's Lutheran Church, which expanded the property with a new Sunday school building. In 1962, a new sanctuary was constructed adjacent to the original structure. The current owners of the building sought to convert the church into a single-family residence and vacation rental while preserving the original sanctuary space. Hanson Architects embarked on the project along with contractor JDR Construction, taking on the challenge of balancing preservation with contemporary needs. The original church is a single-room carpenter Gothic-style building clad in wood siding with Gothic arched windows flanking the porch and both sides of the sanctuary. Over time, modifications such as the removal of the original steeple and entry porch and the replacement of the metal roof with shingles altered its historic character. The team began an extensive restoration that addressed removing the church's previous alterations while incorporating modern functionality. On the interior, the original wood beadboard walls and ceilings and heart pine flooring were preserved to maintain original character. A new kitchen was added within the preserved sanctuary space, providing a large gathering area for communal use. A 2-story addition was added to the rear, housing 4 bedroom suites and a cozy sitting room that connects to the preserved sanctuary. This connector delineates between the original historic space and the new construction. The church's exterior restoration was substantial. The non-historic stoop was removed and replaced with a new front porch that reintroduces the Gothic arched entry of the original tower. The non-historic addition at the rear of the sanctuary was removed, clearing the way for the new addition. The building's original wood window frames and sashes were restored, with multicolored plexiglass removed and new glass treated with colored film to emulate the original stained glass appearance was installed. Damaged and rotting exterior wood siding was replaced in kind, and the brick foundation was stabilized and repointed. This project breathed new life into a building that is a stalwart of the local community. All completed work adheres to the Secretary of the Interior's standards for historic preservation, and the project was awarded both federal and state historic preservation tax credits. By reversing previous alterations and restoring the church's historic integrity, This project showcases the incredible potential that exists for the adaptive reuse of religious structures. St. Luke's Lutheran Church exemplifies a thoughtful approach to preserving a significant architectural landmark in the historic Thunderbolt community.
Our next award winner stands as a testament to the transformative power of preservation. The Emma C. Lee House, located east of Forsyth Park at 538 East Bolton Street, stood abandoned and blighted for over 30 years. The home's crumbling foundation, the damaged roof, and decaying walls painted a bleak picture of inevitable collapse. However, its new owners, Braden and Shelby Scally, were undeterred and committed to revitalizing this once stately home. The Emma C. Lee House is a distinguished example of an early 20th century villa, showcasing intricate woodwork, grand proportions, and craftsmanship that reflects the architectural ideals of its time. The home was completed in 1914, a time when Savannah was rapidly expanding as new neighborhoods were developed east of Forsyth Park. The house first appeared in the 1915 Savannah City Directory, with Mrs. Emma C. Lee listed as its occupant. By 1940, the Homeowners Loan Corporation had redlined this block, systematically denying mortgage financing based on race. As the neighborhood transitioned from predominantly white to black residents, discriminatory lending practices made home ownership nearly impossible for many, limiting economic mobility and shaping the area's demographic shifts for decades. Despite these challenges, the home remained a part of the community's evolving history, standing as a testament to both resilience and change. In 1982, the house was recognized as a contributing structure when the Victorian Historic District was included in the National Register of Historic Places. However, after 1988, no residents were listed for 538 East Bolton Street, marking over 30 years of vacancy. The house required extensive architectural and structural intervention as the team navigated decades of neglect. The site's limited space with close proximity to neighboring structures made maneuvering equipment and materials a logistical challenge, requiring careful coordination. Structural instability, major fire damage to the roof, and exposure to the weather had weakened much of the wood structure, requiring experienced builders and engineering solutions. The team proceeded by meticulously reinforced existing foundations, replaced rotten floor joists and framing, and reconstructed the roof, all while ensuring that every modification honored the home's integrity. In areas where original materials were too damaged, exact replicas were crafted and pieces were salvaged from across the region to maintain authenticity. This attention to detail is particularly evident in the custom-cut stair railing and balusters, which were designed to match the home's original profiles. Local skilled craftsmen and preservationists were hired to restore every original element that could be salvaged, including the intricate interior and exterior woodwork, pocket doors, fireplaces, door hardware, and diamond-like windows. Beyond structural and aesthetic restoration, modern updates were seamlessly integrated to bridge the gap between past and present, ensuring the home meets contemporary living standards without compromising the home's Victorian charm. Once a symbol of neglect, the Emma C. Lee House now stands as an inspiration for preservation efforts, fostering community pride and encouraging others to invest in historic properties. Through vision, craftsmanship, and unwavering commitment, the restoration of the Emma C. Lee House has proven that even the most neglected structures can be reborn.
Our final preservation award goes to the Klein Grocery, a unique building located in Savannah's Cuyler-Brownville National Register Historic District. Settled in the mid-19th century by freedmen, the neighborhood is one of the city's most interesting, featuring intact and diverse architecture that is important to Savannah's African-American history. Constructed in circa 1874, shortly after the neighborhood was formed, the building is named for Samuel F. Klein, the original owner. Its distinctive temple front gable and recessed porch is a rare building type for a store in this area, and very few survive. Klein initially purchased the land as a farm lot in 1863, farming the land while he resided in the city and ran a grocery store. He built the one-story building along West Broad Street during Reconstruction and operated it as a grocery through 1903. It was purchased in 1909 and moved to its current location at the rear of the lot, where it was reoriented to front Klein Street. The grocery was converted to a residence and rented to various working-class tenants throughout its history, including laborers, butchers, maids, and cooks. By 1995, the property was vacant and remained so until Historic Savannah Foundation purchased it in 2021 through its revolving fund. The new owners, Brent Watts and partners Cabretta Capital and Chatham 508 Klein Street, LLC, bought the property with the goal of undertaking a sensitive rehabilitation and to create an affordable rental home using best preservation practices and historic tax incentives. The project team included architects Andrew Lynch and Mariel Hamer with Lynch Associate Architects, contractors Sam Carroll and Andrew Carlton with Carroll Construction, and preservation consultant Sarah Ward with Ward Architecture and Preservation. Ward prepared the tax incentive applications and ensured that construction met the Secretary of the Interior standards while also considering the affordability of the residents. The rehabilitation posed significant challenges to overcome. Vacant for 27 years, the building was in great disrepair with no working systems, no kitchen or bathroom, and damage to the walls, ceilings, and floors. It was altered many times during its 150-year existence, and the limited available historical data made it difficult to find documentation of the original design. Exploratory demolition was undertaken to discover historic wall framing locations, window and door opening dimensions, and the finished treatments for the rehabilitation. The entire team worked on site to document changes, record measurements, and identify significant features, such as the newly discovered window openings, tongue and groove wood ceilings and walls behind the plasterboard. Deterioration of the metal standing seam roof revealed original cedar shakes, while wood lap siding was present beneath the asbestos shingle siding. The team proceeded by replacing the missing historic features and restored the original full-width, recessed front porch with a simple yet compatible design that does not convey a false sense of history. The original fenestration pattern was restored, and single-glazed, true divided light wood windows were custom-made to fit the original openings. A new standing seam metal roof was installed after it was determined that the material had acquired its own historical significance over time. All floors, wood ceilings, and remaining wood walls were retained, repaired, and restored. The project was completed at the end of 2023 and occupied by tenants in 2024. As a true example of the benefits of state and federal preservation tax incentives, the project obtained over $170,000 in tax credits. The rehabilitation of the Klein Grocery successfully restored a significant and unique property in Cuyler Brownville, where it continues to add to the neighborhood's rich cultural significance and historic fabric as a single-family affordable housing unit.
Phenomenal preservation projects would not be possible without the talented people behind them. This year, HSF is honored to recognize Brian Felder with the Volunteer of the Year Award. Thank you, Brian, for your many years of service to Historic Savannah Foundation, but also for all you do for the Savannah community. In 2012, Brian founded Felder & Associates. The firm is renowned for its exceptional work in commercial, residential, historic preservation, and worship buildings. The team is behind many of our city's most recognizable projects, which include the Gray Restaurant, the Buchan Falligan Building, and the Corpus Christi Catholic Church, among others. Brian and his team also designed the Murray C. Perlman and Wayne C. Spear Preservation Center, attached to the historic Kennedy Pharmacy on the HSF campus on Columbia Square. He worked alongside Brooks Construction to restore the Kennedy Pharmacy on Broughton Street. They also worked together on the Urban Enslaved exhibit in the basement of the Davenport House, a property owned by Historic Savannah Foundation. 2 years ago, work began on the other side of Columbia Square when Brian stepped in to help us manage the interior and exterior restoration of the Sheffield Building, HSF's headquarters. Currently, he is again assisting HSF with the management of the very first full exterior restoration of the 1820s Davenport House. Brian's support of HSF began when he joined the board in 2009 and has continued for over 12 years. In 2012, he served as the chair of the Architecture Review Committee, and in 2013 to 2014 was board parliamentarian. Brian served as revolving fund committee chair for about 10 years, while also serving on HSF's executive committee. When selling properties, the revolving fund committee lovingly coined a phrase we use to this day, the Felder 20% rule, always encouraging us to make 20% on the sale so more money could go back into the revolving fund, giving us the means to save yet another historic building. In 2015, Brian became the HSF Board Vice Chair and held that role until 2018, when he became the HSF Board Chair. He served as Board Chair until 2020. His contributions to HSF over so many years are endless. In addition to his commitment to preservation and incredible work, Brian is a family man. He has been married to his wife Denise for 29 years and is a loving father to Mary Esther, Jack, and Joseph. Brian stands out as a pillar of our community. Thank you, Brian Felder, HSF's 2025 Volunteer of the Year. It has been such a pleasure filming here at HSF's headquarters in the historic Sheffield building. Thank you all for joining us for our 2025 Preservation Awards. We would also like to again thank our Preservation Month sponsors for their support.
Congratulations to this year's winners. These outstanding projects and people truly represent the best of preservation in our community. To our friends, members, and donors, thank you for your support. Please consider donating to Historic Savannah Foundation so that we can continue to preserve the buildings, places, and stories that define our city. We all work together to make Savannah a leading example of historic preservation and look forward to continuing this important work with you. Thank you all for a wonderful 2025 Preservation Awards.